Hey everybody, we're zooming. It's a hot sort of weird day. It's been raining the bejesus up here. We're zooming from our secret room with Patrick. Hello.
Hello.
And we have my old friend, roommate, Bob Gaulke from
Right.
Bronx, right?
Rochester. Yeah, from France.
You're from France. Now, okay, well, you can lie and say wherever you want to
Penfield.
be.
No, I was from Penfield. I don't know what's happened in Penfield. I haven't,
Oh,
been back in 25 years or so. I like Rochester as this idea, and you guys are kind of like
yeah.
MS3K, so
It's best as an idea, I found.
I'm
yeah.
in Pittsford a lot because we usually tape in the podcast studio and I do
Okay.
music out there. So I go, you know where that pickle factory is? It's like by Grove Street. It's an old pickle factory. We tape
Okay.
in there. We go there, but I don't really go through Penfield that much.
Yeah.
It's
Somebody
there.
told me that, yeah, they like moved like the whole center of the town, and it's completely built up just like the rest of, the
I used to
COVID
think
world
I took my dad to the symphony orchestra there many times, but
in
which was
Penfield.
good. Yeah, it's really good. It's like $15 and it's good.
Wow.
But you bring out snow too, because I remember when we went home from Washington, that had to be in the top 5 of the worst drives I ever had when we drove home from Washington. Remember the snow when we left from Alexandria?
I didn't remember this, Rob, until you mentioned it, and I've successfully blocked out
Blocked it
most of
out.
my past. But I'm having a good feeling. It's a warm snow feeling.
It was bad, but then when I went to the Beacon Theater, we were going to meet. We had to drive back in the morning. We got caught in a snowstorm.
Yeah, isn't that funny? It is a little bit like Truman Show or something. How like the rest of the country is, global warming, and then you get to this Rochester belt, and suddenly like Rich Funky is, still on TV after 50 years, and everything's funky and it's snowing, and you're just trapped. People don't leave Rochester.
I wish he was just still on TV.
Yeah,
He's not?
He's a legislator now.
Nah,
he's a Republican
What?
legislator.
He's a super Republican. How do you want to know? Like,
Wait, we're not super Republicans? Oh,
I mean,
I'm on the wrong show. I'm sorry.
I was thinking about politics.
not
a
that there's
little.
anything wrong.
No,
with
I was thinking
that.
about politics a little because we were in Washington, we were interns, and considering I think both of us don't really fit in any like mode. Could you imagine being there now?
Yeah.
No.
But because I don't think we're sort of like everywhere, and I think
Well-
you have to be part of checking the box now.
Is this a family show?
You can swear all you want. I
Oh
don't
no,
care.
yeah, fuck no, it's not so much.
I think most of us understand when we're young that you can't get laid as a conservative, so you just you kind of flip hats a little bit, and you keep those secret discussions to like the third date, where her true feelings come out,
Yeah.
I went the other way though. I used to be pretty right wing, like when I was younger. I've gone the other way, where a lot of people they say you turn the other way, like you're liberal, then you turn conservative.
It's where the pussy is. What can you do?
You're on the right show, my friend.
I kind of figured this.
So you'll like this story. I was at the Plum House today. So I looked on the menu, right? They have a Trump roll.
Yeah. What's in the Trump roll?
I'll send it. I took a picture on my phone. But the obligatory question we ask: how have you dealt with COVID, and especially in New York City, like with this? How have you been doing?
I'm floating on something, helium or just my intestinal tract. I'm doing well. I think teachers, bless them. Rob, my own tassels with the government. I've been a public school teacher for a number of years now, but it wasn't always that way. And I was kind of I was kicked out at one point, and then it's like a soap opera. I got back in, and I'm very happy to be a public school teacher in the city. They do us very well. And if you can handle middle school kids, I don't know if you can. Fisher students, kind of the same thing.
Most people can't. That's why middle school teachers are a very prized breed.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Gene Wilder taught me everything I needed to know. But it's what can I say? Yeah, in terms of how we're dealing it there, pretty well. I think most people, as you know, like vaccination rates were pretty good, and most people Most businesses were kind of stuck to the protocols. You go in, you'd see a lot of like plastic up. They would scan your brain and implant the chip, and then you were like good to meet the girlfriend wearing a full latex condom, And
there was a guy. One of my friends saw him coming out of a Wegmans. We don't know if it was a joke or if he was a nut. He wore a full hazmat suit.
Yeah,
if you got one, you'll be fine.
Yeah. What about you guys? Are you vaccinated? How's it going?
Of course, yeah. Well, it's not real. It was made up and it was a coup, but why not? Do you see my friend Kim Draheim found?
I don't have to tell Bill Gates where I am anymore.
Somebody posted this thing, right? Said, this is the chip they put in you when they vaccinate you. One of my friends who was a musician saw, that's a guitar clamp, you jackass.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing. Somebody wrote about this recently. As a society, we're very lonely, and people want to think that people care about them. But, they don't. They just want your money, But it's a lonely planet.
It is. And I think a lot of people, the online thing creates like a false universe, too, where, I'm so happy. You look at my fun life, and it's like, no. It's not.
Yeah. Everybody can be as important as they think they are or want people.
Yeah.
No, as important as they want people to think they are.
I call it make believe in yourself. It happens a lot. And really, I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, guys, Rob. I never is like I'm sure it's always been this way, but you feel in this moment what really now determines what you are, more than any other time. I mean, if you don't want to get vaccinated, if you want to believe all these QAnon things, you've got plenty of company, I don't know.
Yeah. It's just, I think there's a lot of things. I think that now is a time where people with extreme opinions are louder than everyone else, for one thing. It's hard to get an accurate picture of how many, quote unquote nutcases there are when they basically effectively have a megaphone. I mean, you can look at voting, and things like that, but it's like, who knows? It's like, I like to think that for every like dyed in the wool QAnon conspiracist, there's just somebody who just doesn't know, and is clicking everything, who knows? But I think that in time, at time, I like to think that people will figure stuff out,
or they'll die off.
Or they'll just I mean, non-vaccinated people, they're dying off. Fortunately, they're keeping everyone else at risk and helping variants to propagate. So
but while I've been pretty much even debating doing the laundry during this, why I want to get so much stuff done. You've been busy, and I got this nice little present from you.
Oh!
Would you like to tell us about it?
I don't know. I mean, what can I say? I mean, I'm 54. I've got herpes. I live in the Bronx. I
think one thing I've always said, you've always been a very creative guy. We always talk, you've always been all over the place. And I think creative people create. You just can't be.
So for those of us on the audio medium that can't see the thing you just showed in the video.
Yes. Bob Gaulke pocket,
because we only released this in audio. Yeah. So, yep.
It's got a nude picture of Bob on the front.
That's right. Well, I don't know. I mean, basically, it's I guess it's my way of coping. I'm sure there's a biological rationale for it. When you don't have kids, you want to know you exist. You're trying to leave your fingerprint, and it's I don't know what the metaphor is. Shooting monkeys in a fishbowl in a barrel, but it's the George Plimpton idea of like participatory journalism or experience. You throw yourself in weird, fucked up shit, and it becomes easy to write about stuff. I try not to write about myself. I figure there's enough narcissism for 350 million people, but I've tried to do interesting work. I was a sperm donor. I was an alcohol counselor. I teach middle school in a very
poor. You worked on Freddy's Nightmares, didn't you, for a while?
No, but I was out. In Dread Zeppelin, I had some friends involved with that.
Yeah, you got me into that.
Yeah.
I apologize, but I think if you grow up suburban, particularly if you're from Penfield or Pittsford or Irondequoit or Greece or wherever, you kind of, I don't know, you've been incubated you've done a pretty good job. And I think particularly for me and Rob, when you're commuting to college and you really feel like Cinderella, your friends come back, during the breaks and they've met women they're going to marry. They've made connections that will, take them to the top and you're fucking commuting to fucking Nazareth and Fisher, and so I don't know. I have this chip on my shoulder. So I don't know. Maybe I have great plastic surgeons. I don't know what it is, but I'm still living these crazy teenage ambitions. I write a lot. I do music a lot, and nobody cares. But I got to be me, like the penguin.
How is doing? I'm very interested.
I feel an instant kinship to you.
I've had a couple of friends do this now, and look at us too. I've been doing this podcast now. All you need is like a studio, or you need like to find a friend who has stuff.
You need listeners.
Actually, I have a lot of interesting people. I know that's the big thing, and I found the key to that is bring them on, let them talk. But I'm really interested in the publishing industry for you. Like I have another friend, my friend Monty Campbell, who hopefully he'll join us sometime, who just did his own book. How did you get, what's the publishing like now?
I'll explain that really easily. I lived in Portland, Oregon for 10 years, and that's like the Earth 2 Rochester.
Everybody said that.
It has the same buildings as Rochester, but now it's doubled in size. But in the 90s, it was when those people from Portlandia were there, and they kind of have it wrong because Portland is very slow and they fast cut the episodes to make it look like it's happening in New York or LA. But Portland, at least when I was there, it was this Rochester thing. Anyways, long story short, Rob, you got a friend who's our age and he has his little press and he's like publishing just kind of a step above fanzines, just like, what do they call them? I forgot what they're called, but it'll come to me. But just small books. And then what's happened in the last 20 years is print on demand, vanity press, as it used to be called, digital publishing has matured. So when you get something made, like here's a Rochesterian friend, Mark Trevor, who worked at Borders for a long time and did his childhood memoirs. You're producing, you can self-publish something that has a technical quality of a major publisher. The challenge is to find an audience. Yeah. Most culture is aimed towards teenagers, and if you're kind of invisible, if you're not 17 in this culture. So that's the challenge.
And somebody made YA fiction.
Somebody made a comment about that one time about Jaws. You never could have had Robert Shaw. You would have had to have Orlando Bloom because he's too old. It's all younger people. Mm-hmm. And I also think it's like a double-edged sword too. I think now we can get the stuff out there, but there's so much stuff out there.
Yeah.
You have to somehow try to find a connection and say, like one person wow, I like this, I'll recommend it, because I still go back to my friends for music and just say, okay, what are you listening to now?
No, exactly. And you're making a very great point. And I'm trying to think of the guy. There is someone who has been on this ball for the last 20 years. And he talks about permission marketing. Basically, they call marketing the only American art, but marketing has been flipped on its head because you listen to your friend's recommendation. You don't read junk mail. You don't read junk emails. You are, so what counts, I think the positive side to this whole new paradigm is quality matters. You're gonna check on someone's blog who you like, who you feel is intelligent, who's doing consistent work. And you can tell the people who get paid to do stuff and whose hearts aren't in it, and it's just really hard to lie. You've got to be doing good stuff and you have to be doing it consistently. Yeah.
I'm even more that get off my lawn guy now, where I'm realizing the popular stuff doesn't interest me at all. I don't know if I've seen it before. And I just try to search for indie stuff, off the grid stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I'm on the local music scene, but regular stuff, I don't really pay attention.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but I think, as someone said, if people were really getting stupider, civilization would have ended thousands of years ago. You got to search it out. It's still there. I mean, I'm sure we could find stuff we agree on. There's always quality stuff being made. Sometimes it just takes a little longer for it. But, what do you do if you're not 17 and you still like interesting stuff? Maybe that's a market for you guys,
What's the
or
art
us.
of like, too? One thing I cannot write at all, as you can tell, I'm long-winded. I go off on tangents. You have to be very succinct. It looks like poetry. Now you have to really choose your words, right? Don't you?
To me, Rob, that's
just to interrupt for it. Is it stream of consciousness a lot or not, or just is it?
Yeah, it's kind of more like static electricity. I write short poems. It's something that bothers me, and like again, I kind of consciously put myself in irritating situations. It sounds like I'm describing a sex act, but you really you put yourself in a place where you'll get triggered, and that's kind of how my poems develop. I'll see a tendency, like for example, what I've been noticing. I don't know if you guys seen this very much, but it seems like, and I date a lot, that everybody's traumatized. Everybody I meet is they use this word trauma a lot, and they reflect it too. And I think it's some kind of reflection on the fact that they're saying, even before COVID, people are isolating more. Maybe Rochester is different. Maybe that's why people stay in Rochester. Malcolm Gladwell actually wrote about this. Quality of life is friendship, is community, is connectivity.
Remember Bowling Alone, the old book by, I think.
I remember that title.
I can't think of the guy, but I'll notice this going on my walks. I'll just friendly, you go by, you try to not say. A lot of people just give you don't even look at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't even look at you.
But we're minimal.
I got one woman. I saw her car. It was all left wing stuff, LGBT. Her dog. I saw. She waved and smiled, and like I found a kindred spirit there. Yeah. But like the normal suburbanites, they look at me like me, I guess.
Well, no, I mean you're right, and I think that's what happened to people. If you kind of take advertising and its word, you should be scared and alone and you smell bad. It's like what Pete Townsend was writing about.
If you drink bad beer, all the girls will
50 years ago. And unfortunately, people are in that situation. And I would say beyond my colleagues and the musicians I work with, I can't say I have more than a few good friends that I can rely on. And I hope it's better in Rochester, because to me, that's the promise of smaller cities. It's like an Aristotelian community. You've got ideally 300 people and you're all responsible to each other, and no one can be a total asshole because you're going to see them, every week.
For me, I know it depends on like kind of the circles you've put yourself in, or, I think myself doing community theater for a long time, I know a lot of people, but that I've been out of it, for the last couple of years, is I maintain good relationships with, fewer people, just because you don't see them. But it's all, through social media mostly. But now, like, now that there are more options to get out and do stuff, I have to now just get off my butt and go do it and work on rebuilding those relationships, because it is, like you said, it is important. As much as I myself have kind of enjoyed the isolation early on, it's like, it's definitely hit its, I'm kind of done with it.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I when I was younger, I'd always mock, who's that old fucker at the party? Now I'm the old fucker at the party, and it's like, okay. I try to keep my artistic side slightly separate from my professional side, but then I realized that doesn't really care. And my students are like, "Mister, we found your page on YouTube." And I'm like, okay, just don't watch the video of the woman humping the tree and I won't get fired. But you realize this, and this is maybe the triumph of Pixar, but we're all 13, like, for the rest of our lives. And there were, quality stuff. You have to. I think Rob and I met in a philosophy class at Fisher, and
David White.
And I'm still, I still read philosophy. I'm sure Rob does too. And the best advice I ever got was from John Harmon. It's like, stay in a learning stream. And I think you can really, I can kind of split who I want to spend time with between people who read and people who don't. There's just a certain kind of development that happens in your mind that you don't get from television. And just give me someone who has something interesting to think about, and I'm happy.
Yeah, I love picking out books and recommending them and saying, hey, I learned something from this. This is different. You really should get into this.
Yeah.
and everything else.
Yeah.
That's like part of the podcast. So we just open up to talk about anything.
Yeah.
Like, how do you deal with it? If the parents been pains or good with this now during school, during all this stuff?
Well, it's fine. I mean, this is the sad secret of teaching. If I teach in a poor community, and basically you never get shit from the parents because they're working. New York City never asks people for papers. So, I mean, I've had kids with parents in jail from ICE and stuff. And basically, there's a great book called Schooling in Capitalist America. Basically, if you're working in a poor area, it's basically businesses call the shots, and they want workers. They want workers who will be on time, who will be obedient, and won't cause problems. And so our curriculum kind of filters through that mentality. And there's me and a few other people who try to do interesting shit. And you're like Spider-Man. No one is on your side. The kids are too young. The parents are too tired, and your administrators don't even know what you're doing.
That's why I hated grade school, because it was just conformity. They want you to be different, they say, but if you are, heaven help you.
That's the job. That's the job of K through 12. And then when you get to college, they want to blow your minds and, make you just question.
I have a couple blasts for the past for you.
Ah! Oh my God!
What are we looking at? What are we looking at?
I'm going to show you.
I know. No, say what we're looking at.
We're looking at a CD. And another CD.
Oh my God, Rob! Did I say? Holy shit! Oh my God, Rob! I love you, man.
We roomed together. I stole them from your. Okay, what I held up to Bob was, could you explain those to the class for us?
Okay, this is my first band. It was started in Rochester. I had some friends from my high school who opened up a place called the Bug Jar.
Still there, I think. Yeah, it's still there.
It's still there.
Somehow. And I don't think it's owned by the same people. They were basically.
Bobby T is there. There's other people who are more. I could ask the door guy. He's a good friend of mine.
Mm-hmm. Basically, it was Casey Walpert, Rob Duke, and a third guy I can't remember for a good reason. And they, it was just like Rochester is so small. It's like, hey, one cool place, kids.
Yeah.
The one cool place that we go.
It's very small.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, I think Rob and I can feel the same thing about this. I mean, our friends, had these great adventures, and we're like in Rochester. I don't know. I'm sorry.
It's true, though. No, it's true. Yeah, it's like we're like little Dorothy staring at the rainbow up there, going.
You're trying to find coolness, and I helped them put together a CD. They created a compilation CD of acts, and I basically project managed it in the fact that I got the artists. I got the studios, I made the connections, and this is 1992, maybe, or 91. It was the dawn of CDs. CDs still had a lot of ooh-ah factor to them. And so essentially I did a band with a guy named Eric Gregory, and we played with some people from a band called Nod. I think they're still going.
I remember Nod. Yeah, I know. I remember.
They're still around.
They pop out. They're those bands you think are gone, then they pop out like once a year or so. Yeah.
Joe Soriero. I think. It's funny. And Jeff Spivak is still in Rochester, right?
Now he's like for XXI. They did like house clean the other paper out because they're losing money. So now.
Yeah. So long story short, I'll make this really fast. I did a band, and mostly with Eric, but also Al Murphy, who is now the Mighty High and Dry.
They're really good friends with me. I actually talked to Kyle. Kyle's been on the show, and I know them all very well. I know Eric had to retire because of health reasons. Eric Caterly.
Yeah.
But it's Kyle, and Alex Cote plays with them sometimes.
So Eric Gregory and I did this group, and we both have huge record collections, and we're just referencing obscure stuff that you guys probably know, like Go-Betweens, or we're writers like Lou Reed and this stuff, and we can't really play our instruments. So we did this Bug Jar compilation as a way to just kind of push things forward. We recorded with Jim Huey, and actually there was a kind of escape to Earth too. I took a few Rochester musicians with me to Portland, including Jim and a guy named Steve McAvoy who used to work at House of Guitars, and then Eric and some other people. But the Bug Jar compilation, I'm on a track called Face in the Pavement, and the group was called Supermarket at that point. It sounds a lot like Syd Barrett's like Apples and Oranges or something like that. We were we were mainlining the Chills, Martin Phillips, all that Flying Nun stuff. And then, long story short, we moved out to the West Coast. We changed lineups, and you never know what's going to happen. But we found that hippies loved us. We're doing like these punk anarchist songs, like "Fucking in the Streets," and the hippies are like, "Oh, yo, right on, man!" And we actually made. Do you guys know Larry Feldman? He is a DJ.
Yeah.
I can't step foot in Rochester because he will kill me. I wrote an opera, a rock opera based on his life.
Called Larry. I remember
Larry. That's about Larry Feldman.
Actually,
and
Beth
he's
Bailey.
like,
You remember Beth Bailey at all?
Yeah,
I showed her that one play, that one movie skip you were doing. She said she wished you finished it because it was like with the hair or whatever.
That's funny. Well, I'm still writing stuff, and that's kind of a reason to be in New York. But you get to an age where suddenly you don't think you've done anything, but most people are like young and they're already adults. They're half your age, and they sound kind of stupid, and you want to help them. And I don't know. So, long story short, Rob was just showing some CDs from a band called Hypermarket, which was started in Rochester, finished in Portland. And I just keep releasing stuff under my name.
Is Pocket Dictator different? Is it part of it, or was it you? Just you?
You
look like a little mean little dude in the pocket here, like
little Sparks reference. Yeah, I look like Russell or Ron Mail. I forgot who was the Hitler looking one.
Geez, yeah. know Sparks, that guy dude looks like Hitler.
Yeah.
But I've always wondered, what has civilization done for you then?
What has it done for me? Rob.
Now, how's it? I listened to this again. I always remember years ago, you always seem to be in world music a lot, French.
Yeah.
Listening to this, you get some reggae, you get soul, you get a lot of world.
Yeah, I just kind of, I think.
Plus some REO Speedway.
Exactly. No, I mean, that's kind of a weird thing that I kind of learned from Penfield is I didn't really. We grew up in a time of busing, and my high school teachers trying to tell me that a lot of the suburbs of Rochester were racially segregated through like their property, protocols and stuff.
Kinda.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just an odd thing. I mean, I'm very chastened. I don't know what the adjective is to say that I didn't grow up in a black community, and black culture is so important to American culture.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't really until I started writing my own music that I could open my mind to people of other experiences. My listening used to be very Catholic, and a lot of people don't leave this first degree of, they want, like you want an avatar. You want to listen to someone who could be you, and your sense of empathy as a kid, you're going to probably pick someone who you physically resemble. Like Rob loved Elton John when he was 20 because, he looks like Elton John.
I love Catwoman. I love Catwoman.
And Catwoman. And he looks like Julie Newmar in a bodysuit, of course, as well.
You would know that. Wink.
But anyways, long story short, I got into all these different kinds of music. Once I started writing for myself and, you've got your tools and you're like, oh, let's try this channel. Let's try this channel. And basically it's if you can pull it off, and maybe I can't pull it off, but the song with the reggae beat is called The Underwear Salesman. And it's about a guy who sells women's underwear because he's ugly, his wife's ugly, his life's ugly. But at least if he's selling women's underwear, he gets like close to beauty in life, and we need beauty in our life. It's like a Zen concept.
It's a lot of it's like you're telling stories. I tell Adriana a lot of this about her songs, where it's not like you go bop bop, wham, wham.
That's
there's lots of lyrics to your songs.
Well, thanks. That's cool. I'll take that as a compliment. And that I also to Rochester, going to like Nazareth College and being like a French student. I mean, the French have like a serious history of chanson where it's kind of this troubadour tradition where you're a poet trying to put your poems to music, and that's how I work. And it took me years to understand that, that's the tradition I belong to, because my father was a classical musician. He taught at Nazareth, and my parents couldn't understand me because I can't read a score. I can't play a solo. But, if and there might be people in your audience like this, but you connect to the words.
And I think that's also why we look for, I'm a better behind the scenes guy. I'm involved in production, like with music, bringing people together, and like in terms of music, like movies and stuff. I'm like the idea guy, but
people need the idea. You're the Svengali.
We have the actor here. You're
the
acts in theater here.
Yeah, yeah, the Malcolm McLaren. But it's I don't know what the point I was making, but yeah, they're different traditions. And then if you grew up in Rochester and you kind of you had a kind of sedate childhood compared to most people, then you're ready for an adventure. I mean, many people I went to high school with got married and had kids like right after high school, and I'm just like, fuck that shit. It's time to go to Washington and work for a congressman later indicted. It's time to.
Oh no, your guy got some. I think something happened to that one.
Yeah. Yeah, we did all those years, but then you kind of get hooked on. I think it's more common these days, but when we were in high school and college, being an exchange student was kind of a jump in the dark, and maybe it's more common now, but I kind of just never got over being an exchange student. I went to France when I was in Nazareth, and then I went to Brazil because you kind of work through like French music. And then you realize it kind of dies mostly after Serge Gainsbourg dies. And then you go into Brazil and it's like France, a whole planet, like bigger. And then you decide, fuck it, I'll just be an exchange student again. It's cheaper this way, because you're like ordering CDs you don't understand and they arrive late.
I will tell a little secret too. One of the big things we used to find out in Washington is you could get free meals. All you had to do was walk around and find receptions on the hill. But
I think we all.
There was one we walked into. Remember the one? It turned out to be a fundraiser for Marion Barry. Remember that one?
Yeah.
We see
lots of memories there. And I'm sure, Rob, you've done this in your own way, but you just keep living this life. And so I went to Brazil in the same way, like I was a Nazareth student in France, and then I went to Japan. And then after a while, you just wind up in New York City because you can't run forever.
No, you gotta find your place. It's like my friend Dave Aquesta. He always moved, and he said, as long as you keep going, you don't.
That's called pulling a geographic in AA parlance. But yeah, you just keep running until you don't get caught. But I don't know.
It's very weird. Like you would love like all our friends in theater here because they don't do the obvious. They always like DVC. All them. They try to do different stuff.
Yeah.
So I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to get back in it. I got to tell you, Rob. I mean, it was probably I wrote these rock theater pieces, and they were probably it was like heroin. It was like doing heroin is like the purest kind of thrill I ever felt. And I'm trying to get back to that. And you see, it's not that I'm that much of a narcissist. I probably am, but you see like just bad shit that is like making millions of dollars, and you say, I could do better. I mean, I saw Rent and I thought it had one or two memorable songs, but I thought this is a shitty piece of shit, and then like I kind of fell in with like
never seen it.
Yeah. You're not missing anything, it's, and so, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to, hopefully we'll all meet in theater heaven. I'm trying to write a piece now. I'm really trying to, I mean, I don't know what to say. I love, as much as I love my job, there's kind of an educational industrial complex, and I really don't think they're interested in encouraging children to think for themselves. And I'm trying to like capture this in a very dark piece for children. That's kind of like Alice in Wonderland meets Pink Floyd, The Wall. I mean, there's a lot of money in children's theater, and the idea that I could like sell them back something that they've fucked me up with, that's like ultimate karma revenge. We
did The Point, which is probably drug related, but we had a fundraiser for a music school, and we did The Point to bring in, all the little children there. And I thought this was before COVID. We haven't done anything since COVID.
Oh, that's beautiful. What that was done at a school? What was that?
What we did was my friends Katie and Ben Morey started the Submarine School for Music. What we do is, if you can't afford it, we make sure you can come. So we had fundraiser at the cinema with our friend Michaela, some of her band, Allison Cote, who's a big artist here. And we did The Point, where we put it on screen and they played the characters.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And then COVID hit and everything went to hell, pretty much. Yeah.
Rob, I'm so happy to know that your spirit has expanded. I've been reading a lot of Dickens, and I thought you were on like this straight line to be Ebenezer Scrooge or something in your 20s. You were just getting really evil and everything. And
I like evil way. If you saw who I'm attracted to, you probably take that back. But it's like the other way. Oh yeah, we probably have the same taste in a lot of ways. But I think you grow and you learn. You brought up in like that you're trapped in like a high school and stuff with all this conformity, and you break out, you find things. But one thing we definitely have to talk about now, what do you think of the current state of comic books?
It's just, this is the thing. Being 54, it's kind of hard. It's like, I know the culture isn't really aimed at me. What are comic books written for? Like a 10-year-old but I still love them. So what can you do? I mean, maybe I'm the one who's off, and there shouldn't be these artificial.
Would you follow anything these days? You follow the big two at all? You follow
as I mentioned, I'm just obsessed with these Marvel movies and how close do they get to the source material.
Right here, fellow Marvel.
Yeah, I'm a professed Marvel fanboy, MCU fanboy since day one.
Yeah.
And I not that I think every movie is perfect and there are no mistakes, because certainly, but I think that, like you were saying, the way they honor the source material is better than
astounding.
That's better than any direct adaptations that people have tried to make comic book movies, because they've realized that that's not what you do. What you do is you tell original stories that are bits taken from different writers and different runs and different graphic novels. So, like, WandaVision, just one small example of it. And given that it was basically a miniseries that had more more time to develop it, but there was the most recent Vision stories, the classic Vision and Scarlet Witch runs, and they took pieces from all of those. So they didn't follow the narrative at the end that they followed was their own from one place to another, but it took concepts from these things along the way. And they did that, and with Loki too, especially, there's all the Kid Loki and the Loki for President and for all the other things that have popped up since the Lady Loki, and they've used elements of those to put it together. And the movies, they take bits from here, there, scrunch some characters together, but they do it in their own way, which I think is the way to go.
No, I'm sorry if I'm talking too much.
Please talk more than me. I get on that subject and I ramble.
It reminds me of an Onion headline when Steve Jobs died. Like, the only man in America who knew what he was doing dies, and you get with Kevin Feige that he's passionate and he really cares, and we know that this is all about making money, but. So many times as a kid, I was so disappointed by the CBS adaptations. It's like, what? There are no supervillains in Hulk? What the fuck? Or your little 14-year-old masturbatory self is waiting to see like Scarlet Witch in a leotard. It's like, what? Who designed her costume? What the fuck? And so I think it is something about that some people understand, like a Kevin Feige, and I don't know enough about Steve Jobs to make a comment, but you see people with a vision who have some integrity, who know how stuff should be, and know that it has a value of, as you say, respecting the source material. And it turns people into a cult. You think about like a clothing, let's say skateboarding, Supreme. It becomes a cult because there are people who do things right, do things with care, and the money follows if you make something of quality. And that's, again, the paradigm that we're in. It's harder to lie to people in some ways when information is instantaneous. You better be doing good shit, because the shit will go everywhere. And I think Marvel understands that. And I think they have a very high level of quality control. You have DC like bumbling and trying to we have to retcon everything. It's just pathetic, But in their defense, their heroes are all like 80 years old. So,
and that's the other thing too. And I think, I think the big mistake they made was trying to all of a sudden jam everything into a cinematic universe when that's not the way they originally intended. They should have just stuck to making self-contained stories. We can handle that. We've been handling that up until 2008, and that's why when everybody says that's not how you do a cinematic universe, and it's like, well, to be fair, there's really only been one.
And I think also to be fair, beyond the CGI having really matured to the point where they could create anything Jack Kirby could draw up, I think the other thing that I haven't heard people talk about is also where science is today. That this isn't strictly fantasy.
Yeah.
I mean, you see stories about the Army developing Iron Man sort of armor.
Yeah.
You read about molecular
We're doing that for
manipulation
years.
and stuff.
Yeah.
And also like parallel universes. So the stuff is, I mean, this is something, I had this kind of Three Little Pigs tour of the world where I lived in 3 different cultures like Japan, Brazil, and France. And I came back to this idea that even on a bad day, America, it's a pretty decent kind of locomotive. It's always looking in the future. I think people are generally sincere. They help each other, and we could talk for hours about how that doesn't always happen in other places. But even America on the ropes, it's kind of like I have this commitment to the Bronx. I'm going to play my silly little pocket dictator songs to my students, and there's just this kind of superhero-esque feeling in our culture, like Star Trek. Star Trek kind of represented the promise of America. And I think Marvel does in a way too. It's just trying to be inclusive, and then just I don't know. I mean, Stanley was an asshole.
That's the thing. Yeah, he was. Actually, I'm reading that latest bio.
Off.
I'm reading that latest bio of him right now.
He got all the glory, but at the same time, Stanley also had the balls to get out in front of things, and he had a thing that a lot of these other comic guys didn't have, and that was a personality.
You're right.
And he was an extrovert where a lot of other people were introverts. So
you're right, and he was
a lot
face
of people on the way. But I don't know if that was always his plan.
And I think that the reason I'm here with Rob is we want our moment, we want our statue in the park. Like, fuck you, world. We suffered socially for being comic book geeks. When we went to comic conventions, there were no girls under 300 pounds under the age of 50. Fuck you, everybody. I suffered. I was not as bad as the kid bringing the Miko Star Wars action dolls into high school. I knew enough that I would be beaten up. But, definitely part of a marginalized community. For most of my adolescence, didn't lose my virginity till I was 21. Just really a beta late bloomer cuckolded kind of person. And now suddenly it's cool. Fuck you. We suffered for those back issues.
I do that too.
As long as you're not starting movements, yeah, just the thing. I've seen the whole incel movement start up, and we're being silly, but at the same time, it's just like, I get the root of this. Like, I could have very easily been that guy, but I think you persevere by the fact that you just become your own person. You don't let everyone else dictate that for you.
But I had the one, this is in grade school, okay? The teacher goes around asking what everybody's favorite show is. So we're hearing Happy Days, Welcome Back, Kotter. They get to me and I say Star Trek, and I get the look from everybody in the class.
Yeah, our nephews and nieces will not understand this, that there was a price to pay. I don't want to say we are the Negroes of the entertainment world, but we had to pay a heavy burden. We had to shoulder a heavy burden to be a geek. And that was a pejorative term before the geeks all turned into the billionaires, So we're in a different paradigm now,
I see that. I mean, I see even the first Avengers movie to me, I looked at it and went, this is like classical 1970s Marvel Avengers. Just the way the story was done, everything. It's reminding me of something out of the 1970s.
Yeah.
And then
I use comics in the classroom, and I still get looks down people's noses. I'm working. A lot of kids don't read. I mean, reading is hard if you don't have stuff you like. So I kind of do for my students what my parents did for me, or what Rob's mom buying comics while Rob is yelling at her for buying the wrong comics in Washington.
Oh, you knew that. When she had to pick up my bag.
But I buy comics for my students to help them read, because reading is too hard if you don't like what you're reading. Yes. And this is something my beloved colleagues don't understand. I mean, there is this whole evil testing corporation kind of thing, and they don't get it. They think that kids love to be tested, and so I'm on the side, slipping kids comic books and stuff, and I'm seeing the results. I'm getting the love back, and that's why it's easy for me to teach middle school, because I'm spiritually 12 or 9, But it's what adults don't get, But comics are great and they lead to, they lead to reading like science fiction and fantasy, which leads to history and political science and makes you go to Fisher and remember Rich Sauerzoff. Oh my God.
Poor Rich, poor guy. I was very sad when I found out about Rich.
Oh yeah. Oh God.
Yeah. But
anyways,
But that's the thing, like that though. I started reading comics. My reading level was past high school. I was like in second grade, which made me popular because they stuck me by myself reading my own books. That always makes you really popular. But
it's really odd with social media. It's like you're living in a constant past. And this is great, but you're just, it's kind of like your emotions don't really age. You're still 13 and oh my God, there's the girl I had a crush on 30 years ago and she's still looking hot, but she married someone who's earning about 20 times more than me and has some pretty nice looking kids, but it is strange that how those feelings don't go away. So this is a real interesting kind of dialogue for me from that point of view that you're always 13, that's like the start of your adulthood.
It's weird though too how like because of social media, like people in high school who didn't even want to know me or anything, or probably spit on the ground by me. Now they want to be your friends. And you have nothing in common with them either.
Yeah.
Right. And what's a funny thing is even at 54, I meet somebody new. And if they're one of these like dumbass Neanderthal alpha males, you see it in their eyes. There's like this micro expression of recognition. And you're both 13 again in the locker room and he's about to kick your ass, and you just have to scratch a little bit. And then those feelings are still there, But
we found that I think you talked about connection. I think I always say Rochester, you can draw circles like all around. Yeah. I'm like a connecting point with a lot of people, but okay, this circle of people is here. I have all these circles of friends. And I think you find them, like you said, the positive people are out there. If you look, you have to go through like, you want to go see a cover band in Greece. You can go do that if you want. I don't really care to.
I think, on that note, what saved us, I think we all know this. At one time, I assume we're all the same generation, like Brighton had some of the best schools in the nation. And there was kind of a surplus that we benefited from in that, first of all, the Jewish influence, just the intellectual, inherent legacy of the Jewish culture is there. And the fact that the smartest women had limited career paths, so many of them became teachers. So there was probably some kind of spillover effect. Even if you didn't grow up in Brighton, I think the whole region probably benefited by this critical mass of really brilliant women in the mid-20th century. And we had great public schools. The quality of schooling that I had, you could not duplicate today in a private school. Like I'm sure you guys had similar experiences where you were doing some really neat shit in public school in the 70s and the 80s, and I think that's a lot of that is that legacy.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of Rochester for me is, that because you see what it looks like. You walk into a Jewish home here and it looks like a bookstore, and then I'm tutoring some poor kids and they have a Bible and a television, and so it's, I'm sorry, maybe this is a little, it's probably get me canceled, but, Rochester has that great blend of cultures that I think, make it a jewel in the rough. I mean, I guess historically Rochester was shafted. I guess the mayor of Rochester got in a fight with the governor and the thruway bypassed Rochester.
Oh, we have interesting mayors. We have a little interesting mayor stuff.
Yeah, our mayor got indicted.
Our mayor just got indicted.
Because her husband
did some naughty stuff,
and she claims to not know about, but it was all done in her house. She's.
Yeah, you stick in terms of like film and stuff. Do you just stick to the indies now, except for the big Marvel, like the comic book movies?
Films, I just buy DVDs that I don't open. They're just to impress girls that come over. I don't know. What have you guys been watching?
I'm behind on everything. I'm just behind on everything.
I do what I call the streaming service merry-go-round. Where every month I will pick up, I will drop one, grab another one, watch whatever's on there that's interesting. The thing that I'm digging right now, as far as films go, are just I'm catching up on the weird horror movies that have come out in the last 5-6 years, and stuff in the vein of like the A24, Hereditary, Midsummer. But there's all kinds of and I'm trying. I can't. There's some bizarro directors that have made movies like Beyond the Black. Oh God, what is it called? Beyond the Black Circle or something like that. Remember a movie called Mandy with Nicolas Cage. There's weird shit. I saw Empty Man, which was out in theaters, for the 4 or 5 people who went to theaters. That starts like a random, like a kind of normal horror movie, that turns into this weird metaphysical philosophical nightmare. But and then there's the Marvel shows and the Star Wars shows and the stuff that if they existed when I was a kid, I would probably be 20 times a bigger nerd than I am now.
Well,
how about you, Rob? Any films you've seen?
I just getting back, I actually finally watched, last year, I finally got around to watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Which I really liked. I actually liked Dr. Sleep, but for a different reason than the movie itself being good. And then
Sleep was okay.
I've been getting back into Doctor Who a lot lately. I've been getting back into watching old Doctor Who's. And I've been doing that. I've been binging on them. Pretty much.
Classic? Are you talking
classic? The classic, all the old classics, because you can get them on DVD now. You never really could get them. And I try to find odd movies.
John Pertwee. Yeah. I let's see. A few things come to mind. I don't know if you guys like French comedies or stuff. There was this film called
Tati. I was watching the old Jacques Tati movies.
Yeah,
a while ago.
There is this Belgian actor who looks like a young George C. Scott. His name is Daniel Poulvord, and he was in this film called The Brand New Testament. Have you heard about this? He plays God, God lives in Belgium. No. The Brand New Testament, and it's some people. It's kind of like a dude movie. Women think this is stupid, but it's God is this asshole, and he lives in Belgium, and he just sits at a computer and he just fucks things up for humans all day long. And his daughter, he's abusive towards his kids, and he has this daughter, and she's fuck this shit, and she releases everybody's day of death to the world. So everybody knows exactly they have how long to live. And you think about how that changes people. But anyways, I thought it was a funny movie. It's called The Brand New Testament. It's on Prime. And then I watched everything this guy did because I found him incredibly hilarious. And he's kind of like Robin Williams meets George C. Scott. He's a very funny, animated actor. And if you just look for Daniel Poulvord or A Brand New Testament, I think you guys would really enjoy these films.
You like any of the Studio Ghibli stuff? Like Miyazaki and his animation? You like any of those?
I've seen some of it when I was in Japan, like Spirited Away and all those things. I haven't got back in it. I try to keep up. I mean, part of keeping the kids safe and happy at school, I try to get into what they're into just so I know what's going through their heads. And they've been watching Rick and Morty a lot, and they listen. I try to listen to the rap, even though it's all beep beep beep, just to know what's going through their minds, so I can drop some cheap jokes and make some superficial connections with them. But I don't know. I probably should know more. One of the ones
I tried to get into filling out my foreign films during lockdown, and I got a Pasolini's Life collection, which is the Cameron, Arabian Nights, and I haven't watched them yet. That's His Life, His Death. But if you've ever seen Salo, that movie's repulsive. It's the best way to describe Salo if you've ever seen it.
Yeah,
it's just horrifying.
I don't know. It's just kind of odd. I don't know if you guys. I assume you guys are both collectors, and you gotta kind of watch this habit after midnight on Amazon. You just start buying shit, and I've got walls of stuff in plastic that I haven't opened. And it's just, you realize you're in King Tut's tomb. You're building your own sarcophagi here. You got all this shit. You're never going to have time for it.
Yeah, can you see Star Wars
my Lego Star Wars collection, which is...
Have you seen one movie I really did like of late was At Eternity's Gate.
Okay, I'll check it out.
It's about Van Gogh. And there's another one. Have you seen The Lighthouse?
No. Is this horror?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes. It is... you could classify it as horror for sure, because there's some definitely, oh God, I'm trying now to remember the director for.
He did The Witch, didn't he? The same guy who did The Witch.
Yes, yes, which is another, which the Lighthouse makes the witch look like,
Rainbow
Honey, I
Bright, the
Shrunk the
Star
Kid.
Stealers.
But it's Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe as two lighthouse keepers. The whole movie is in like 4:4 like boxed in little screen, which is very, it gives you this really claustrophobic effect. It's all in black and white, and they play these two lighthouse keepers who basically go insane, and they're like Cthulhuoid visions that they have, and they get stupendously drunk and fight, and Willem Dafoe's the old lighthouse keeper who's up, standing naked in front of the lamp looking at something, and apparently Pattinson was genuinely drunk through a lot of the movie, which is
Cool.
which is on one level, yes, but on a professional level is a very, very bad idea.
I got
and
you.
it caused Willem Dafoe and him to really, really fight sometimes.
I like Knives Out, which was like sort of an old fashioned like mystery.
Knives Out was good. Knives Out was like a classic whodunit, but for like a modern audience, and
Well, it's like there was the one guy who was like the big Trump. He was like, what do you say? Get your undocumented self out.
Everyone was so brilliantly cast, and they're all like, these are the rich family. And everyone from the conniving, ne'er-do-well to the in-law who never leaves.
What the heck was it? Was
never leaves,
Daniel Craig's Benoit Blanc? And is he like supposed to be like a Kentucky Colonel type? I couldn't get that accent like for half the movie.
It's a kind of sort of Cajun-ish accent that he does.
But I'll ask you this question. We were talking about Marvel. What would you do if you could wave your wand to sort of save the DC universe?
Yeah, I would reboot it. But I think, they have some individual properties that are doing pretty well.
Amelia Clark is Mara. That's the first thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think whatever. I mean, this is really odd. I think, as I mentioned before, sometimes I take students to watch these, because they're films I want to see. It's like, hey, come on, guys, we got to see the new Green Lantern movie or whatever.
That's the way to do it, though, isn't it? Oh, we'll have to interrupt for a second. You finally watched Green Lantern. What did you think?
I thought it was pretty bad. It wasn't as horrendously bad as I thought it was going to be. But I'm also not a big Green Lantern head. So, but anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really, I think someone has written about this. It is a structural issue. Their characters are really old, and I think DC's gone through so many reboots of their comics line, haven't they, where they've taken things back to zero.
Yeah, like did they do a whole thing? They called it that 52. Where like
52.
I actually watched Doom last week. It was a cartoon. It was a version of the Jeff Johns Justice League. It takes the new 52 Justice League and how they all meet. It's like starts down. They have weird ones like in one Superman's so much younger than Batman and all this other stuff.
Yeah. I think, Rob, to answer your question, I think, maybe they're doing the best that they can, and now Marvel's moving to this multiverse thing. I mean, the funny thing is, they could almost be, I think they're trying to do this. They're like very like self-conscious and, kind of ironic about their stories. I think that's a good way to go. I'm sure you guys are aware, like Alan Moore once wrote this treatise, like the Twilight of the superheroes, where he was like figuring out a way to end the whole DC universe, and it's brilliant. I guess other people have ripped it off and sold it, but that's the thing. I think maybe Adult Swim pioneered this, but someone came up with this great idea, like, hey, let's take like kids' culture from previous eras and regroove it for adults, and I would probably do stuff like that,
Kevin Smith's He-Man is coming to Netflix soon, and
I'm
interested to see what that's going to be. I haven't really seen anything. I haven't watched any of the trailers. I was never I was never a He-Man kid, though I was the right age for it, because I was a Star Wars kid. And granted, you could be lots of different things, but even when I was like 8, I thought He-Man was too on the nose. Just like this is too silly.
The one other
thing go on.
No, go on.
Oh no, I was going to say there's a guy in Portland named Mark Russell who wrote like a Flintstone series, and he's like injecting like
Yeah, it was
social
like a really gritty
criticism.
really gritty Flintstones. Yeah.
Mark, you know, and that's kind of the Alan Moore legacy. And you know, if you can actually look at Alan Moore's books, he's horrible at dialogue. His ideas are brilliant, but his characters are completely wooden.
If you tried to read Jerusalem,
I give up. I mean, I don't think these things. I'm not like a fan of Watchmen. If you actually read it, I mean, the ideas are great, but you look at what the characters are saying to each other, it's wood. It's complete wood. You know?
It's supposed to be, all it was supposed to be was the old Carlton characters.
Yeah,
they couldn't get, so they did it like this.
But I mean, I think that's like really fertile stuff to play with. I mean, I think everybody, it's really the Disney paradigm. You want to create entertainment for kids that adults will enjoy as well. And you know, I think most stories, you know, we're looking for that classic hero's journey as we teach in middle school. And, you know, why not make something you want to shoot for as big of an audience as you can? And I think Disney stuff is kind of solid. I mean, I
think so too, as you know, as much of the, you know, quote unquote evil empire as they are. But I just, the thing that Disney has done with a lot of the things they've acquired is they know their worth, and they don't mess with that. You know, and they do everything they seem to do everything they can to foster them. Like, we know what the secret sauce of Marvel is when we bought it, so they didn't be like, okay, well now everything's going to be this, and you're going to have to work Cinderella into shit, and you're just like, no, they were just like,
and there's also the flaws.
Here's $1 billion more dollars, just keep doing this and keep making it good.
And there's also the flaw. I like characters with flaws like Daenerys from Game of Thrones, which she's basically a sweetheart, kind-hearted. And, you know, she has bad days every now and then, but, you know, but they try to make her bad, but she's really not or anything. But the latest one I'm getting into is Umbrella Academy. That's like the latest series I actually got from the library to pick up.
But they were like showing our students, I don't know if you guys have seen Coco, that film set around the Mexican Day of the Dead.
I know what it is.
It's really sharp. I was blown away with how much detail and how much adult level intrigue is there. And I'm like, wow, you know, and it's like
hitting young people with these big, you know, with these heady concepts that are, at the end of the day, just universal human things that, you know, it's just like, why let's talk about death? Because
it's an interesting argument. And this goes back to education. Like, research suggested that like Blue's Clues is a much more effective kind of paradigm for kids. I mean, like the research show, like Sesame Street, you know, used to be like this, like the early Sesame Street that we grew up on, very sophisticated. You know, you have jazz musicians, you have avant-garde people doing really crazy shit. And you look at the early Sesame Street, it's like would probably be rated R today, you know. But at a certain point, like the Blue's Clues paradigm, where you just like Barney, like you do simple, boring shit, you know, they found that was more effective. However, like what you're saying, you those ideas they stay with the kids, and it's okay for kids to have a mystery in their mind that they don't fully understand, you know?
I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like I can't tell how many discussions I've gotten in with people, you know, who are parents of you know, my generation, when they talk about, like, you know, introducing their kids to the concept of death. And it's, you know, and it's just like one of those things that at the end of the day, it just kind of happens. I never sat down and had a big talk about death, though I did have some weird religious shit when I grew up. So
look, those little fuckers probably stepped on a lot of bugs before you even had to bring up death. I mean, that's your first experience with death, probably, is stepping on ants.
I think you usually find that what I found almost universally is kids handle a lot better than you think they will. You know,
my pet bunny died. The first death I ever dealt with was my grandmother. But then, like, I'm looking at the last years, we've had friends pass away. I dealt with, at the Saga with my dad. I dealt with for 5 years. And then I basically was told I was like doomed about a month ago, and it turned out not to be. No, I literally went to the doctor, so I can tell you this story. They did an EKG. He said, you got to go to the cardiologist if they had a really bad heart attack, and you better look at this. And so I was waiting for a month. It turns out it was nothing. I'm fine.
Oh, good.
But you think about
don't
stuff,
get an EKG from your
don't get an EKG from your primary care physician. That's the story.
They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, they don't know what they're doing. And it's not the doctor, it's that the nurses aren't experienced with it. But you go through that, like, for a month, you think there's so much more I want to do. There's so many things I'm working on. and you start thinking about it's like the end, it makes you really think about it. Where we've lost friends at young ages, and then look at Rich.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think over 50, you could die from farting. I mean, I'm just grateful like every
Don't say
day.
that my vegetarian diet's been doing it bad.
Yeah,
Back on too. Fred Dodal
I
and
got
Mike
another
Guzik.
year to just destroy myself.
Fred Dodal and Mike Guzik come on from Fish. You got to come back with them sometime.
Okay, how are we doing on time, guys?
I think we're about
pretty much. What else you want to add? It's been great having you.
No, I just appreciate reconnecting with you, Rob, and
hey,
it's,
my
it's
real
great.
friends. No matter, I'm like a cat. My real friends, though, I never forget. Except for that whatever his name was. Guzik would be good too because he's a Jesuit. You two would have loads of fun.
But no, it's great that you guys are doing this, and I wish you a lot of luck. If anyone's interested in checking out my music, it's Bob Gaulke, Gaulke. I'm on all the streamings shit, and it's nice to one for the
we try to do. I know Pat does it more than me, but you ever do like the role playing? I mean, I know kind of role playing games you've probably done, but I mean like the board games, not those kind of games.
Well,
we're actually trying to do with part 3 of the D&D.
I haven't done that for years,
I think
but
you'd be good. You'd be good.
So you have a dark story.
I think I think is there a guy named Wayne Brown still around Rochester? He ran a science fiction.
I know Wayne. I'm trying to.
I met Wayne in 1979.
I think he might have passed. I am not sure why. I hope I'm not talking out of school.
Wayne, if you're there,
I ran into him at every convention with the Rochester Science Fiction Association.
Yeah.
Great guy.
I mean, we forget before the internet, information was at such a premium, and you would rely on older friends like mentors, like from the Shazam TV show. No, you would rely on older friends to like key you into stuff. And
I know a young boy going around with this guy in a van. Wow, that's a good concept for now.
Yeah, I know. A lot of pedophiles. Anyways, but Wayne in 1979, 1980 started a science fiction fantasy comic. I guess you call it a meetup now at the Rundell Library. And that's where, it's just an exciting stuff. If you guys have ever done like workshops, or there's a feeling like when you connect with people of the same interests, it's like blows your mind and stuff. And I forgot why I'm mentioning this, but role play. That was like the last time I did that stuff. But it was great. And that was like the start of ErCon 1. Does ErCon still going? University of Rochester? Science fiction convention.
Believe me, the last couple of years.
I don't know. Yeah, there's
the last couple of years.
I know. ErCon was. U of R Con actually became. It was SimCon.
Yeah.
SimCon. SimCon, which I think was the original like simulation games convention, and there was a Rubicon, which was the RIT one. They kind of come and go. Astronomicon, I think, was Wayne's thing.
Yeah,
it's still around. I think some friends of mine.
I'm just trying to check and
But the thing too is, like, I started doing this a couple of years ago, and I promote all my local friends, obviously, but people just get addicted to doing it too. I have like multiple co-hosts, get more that want to climb on the band, join the band.
Well, cool. That sounds wonderful, Rob. I mean, I guess how I do that is
obviously you don't want to drive into the studio, but when you want to come back, you're welcome to come back.
Well, let me tell you how it works, and you'll see this in my clips. My version of that is I need to make a video clip. I work with this Ukrainian director. He's like, okay, I can find some models. You can pay them for lunch and a pizza. And so we get women to dress up in costumes. Like, okay, this is about like Catwoman. Okay. And it's about the henchman. And he's like in the friend zone because he's always getting arrested. They never beat Batman. So he must have a real stiffy for her, but he's like in the friend zone. He's never going to get any action with her. So,
sometime.
Yeah, you buy costumes on Amazon, you pay the model, she doesn't know what the fuck she's doing, and you say, no, like this, So
all you gotta do is buy the costume and you can get the model. Well,
and the cast, they like cash.
Like to be on there too.
So that's my role playing. That's the extent of my role playing. But we're always making.
I like it. I'm gonna have to keep that in mind. We will get a play. Well, I'll keep this over with Patrick. we'll play a song of yours at the end from
Oh,
What Is Civilization Ever Done for Me?
What should we
yeah,
play?
probably the Underwear Salesman. This is again a song about a guy whose life is like really terrible, but he sells women's underwear. So how bad can it be?
All right,
And it's actually based on
Looking at the lyrics for a second. We could put dirty
It's
songs on.
That's fine.
It's based on a real story. I should say that. And you can watch the video clip. It gets 5 views a day from desperate men in India for some reason. We don't want to see the naked body. I can't make the voice.
I actually did one Christmas. I worked for Target, and I said one of the reasons to do it was I just wanted to see so I could talk about it. And in a way, it was like working for North Korea, the way they treated people. But it's a good experience. It's also good because then you can relate to like how it is too, which is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
But cool,
okay,
man.
Guys.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, nice to meet
Come
you.
Thanks for having me.
Man. Great to see
Nice
you
meeting
again.
you
You know how
guys.
we always reunite.
All right, let's.
Nanu.
No. Okay. Live long and prosper. All right.
Thanks, man.
As a kid, I watched what he did. His smile, his elegant style. Good with ladies, not with money. He lived between the lines. Trouble he got in, and out like a film, he survived. In fact, he thrived. It took me a while to forgive him. Then I thought, fuck, I'm that guy. Smile to smile, without a break. Sail to sail, do it again. Kids in white, know who you are. On the table sits your coffee mug. I need beauty in my life. I don't settle for smart. If I'll never be rich, at least I'll play my part. Train to train with the sample case, following the legs of the street. I've given up on being saved. My expectations fit my mornings. Knit stockings, mad panties, double lace bodies, hair and bone, a necklace, baby. You'll wear those things. Beauty in glances sustains more or less. Breathing in the city, laughing and lying on the wind. I need beauty in my life. I don't settle for smart. If I'll never be rich, at least I'll play my part. In this life, things are off and on. I go days at a time, thinking of nothing at all. I see you at night. In dreams, it's the closest we come to an understanding.